Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I wanted to do a tiny little haul for you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I recently picked up the ColourPop and Kathleen Light's Zodiac collection. I've talked about it before. I really like Kathleen and I want to do all I can to support her. And when she did the release video for this collection, I was really intrigued because the palette looked amazing and everything else looked amazing. So we're going to do a haul and then I have something else afterwards. If you've seen the title or the thumbnail, you probably already know what I'm going to talk about, but pretend you don't know so I can do this little haul first. Okay, so there was a lot in this collection. Originally, I wasn't going to get all of it. I was kind of just looking to get the palette, a highlighter, and the lipsticks, and like maybe one of the things, whatever they're called, the supernova shadows. I was thinking about just getting a few things, but when I went on the website, the highlighter I wanted was sold out, and I was like, I still really want that highlighter, so you know what, I'll just pay 80 bucks Canadian and just get all of it. So that's what I did. So smart. The collection came with two highlighters. We have On the Cusp right here and Fire. Now I'm going to finally take them out of the packaging, even though I've already used them and I put them back. So this is On the Cusp right here. This is probably one of the prettiest highlighters I've seen in a while. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you might know that Flexitarian is one of my favorite ColourPop highlighters. And this one, I would have to say, is probably Flexitarian's mature older sister. There's just something about this shade that reminds me of Flexitarian so much. I think it's because they're similar in the way that they look. On the Cusp has a little bit more of a gold undertone instead of a silver, like Flexitarian. It's something that I've been using, like I'm wearing it today. It is so pretty. It's like the best pale girl highlighter, like pale gold highlighter for pale skin. The next highlighter is Fire. Now this one I won't use for my skin tone because if you can see here, this is actually pretty deep. This is more of a copper on my skin tone. You can see right here. This would be absolutely amazing if you had more of a deeper skin tone, but on me, I don't know if you can see, but like it would leave a stripe on my face and that's not something I'm trying to go for. But I'll definitely be using this as an eyeshadow because it is so pretty. Moving on, now we have the two Supernova shadows from ColourPop. I do have one I owned previous to these ones, and it's called Now or Never, and it was kind of like a silver with hints of purple in it, and it was really pretty. So here we have Constellation. Wait, is that what it's called? Constellation, and it's very much this beautiful, I want to say it's like almost like a rose gold type color, but I know it's not. It's more of like a copper. We can swatch that right here. I personally found that the formula of these was much different to the actual Supernova shadows. I'm not sure if they changed their formula or anything, but they just feel like 10 times smoother. They apply better. They're not as chunky, which I really like, and I feel that they all have better staying power. This one right here is Astrology. These are very unique colors in my opinion. I probably wouldn't have picked up this yellow on my own, but now that I have it, I'm really excited to see what looks I can do with it, especially with this palette. I know that Kathleen did use Constellation, but I want to see what she can do with the gold. Now we have the two ColourPop, what are these, the Cream Luxe lipsticks? Or just the Luxe lipsticks. I'm getting confused with the H Cosmetics, okay? So we have this one, and it's called What's Your Sign, and this is more of a, oh my god, this is more of a nude, right there. So pretty. I was honestly pretty scared the first time that I put this on, because when Kathleen says, oh, it's a nude on me, it's usually too light for my, it's too light for my skin tone and just washes me out. So I was really nervous, but then when I got this and I saw it was a little bit more on the deeper side, I was super happy because I knew I could wear it And then this next one here we have is Scorpio Moon. It's what I'm wearing on my lips today. This is so pretty. I genuinely, I don't know. When I saw this color, I was like, wow, that looks so pretty. I'm not sure how it's going to look on me, but I actually am very surprised, and I think it looks very nice if I do say so myself. I want to say it's a purple with like a rose undertone or like a pink with a purple undertone. I have no idea, but I love it. It's so pretty, and I think it complements this look I did today using the Zodiac palette, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So here is the palette. I think this is the most beautiful packaging of any palette I've really ever seen. I just think Kathleen does a phenomenal job with packaging on her palettes. I like how she likes to incorporate the metallic onto it. This is her Dream Street palette that came out in December. I've talked about this on my channel a few times now. I really love this palette and it's so beautiful, but this is what the palette looks like. I want to compare it side by side to Dream Street just because I want y'all to see. If you're just getting into color, I would highly recommend these. They do have your neutral shades and some basic shimmers, but they also have a few pops of color here and there, which is something that I really enjoy. Blue is like my favorite pop of color, and the fact that both of the palettes that she has come out with has a blue in it, I love. Now there was one night I was going to bed, and typically what I'll do, because I use a TV screen as a computer monitor, I'll usually just lay in bed and watch YouTube videos, and I was watching the video where Kathleen talked about the release of this palette and when it was coming out and everything like that, and in the recommended or the up next, it was going through some of her other releases from like years back. Like YouTube was kind of just recommending me videos of her past launches that she was talking about, and a specific palette came up, and that was the Morphe palette. And when I was watching her video and like seeing the swatches, I was like, wow, these kind of look the same. And I was like, you're joking. Like, I don't know why, but I immediately felt disrespected when I was watching her swatch these colors, and especially this green color in particular, and the berry tones and like the gold and whatever, anything. I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, this looks exactly like the Zodiac palette, and I couldn't shake it from my mind. I could not believe it. Like, even looking side by side here, I'm just a little bit confused. Aside from the haul, and you've probably seen from the title and the thumbnail, I'm going to be comparing these two palettes. But the only thing, if you've ever watched my other comparison review videos, if you haven't, I'll have them linked right here. If you haven't seen those, basically I do it in a specific fashion where I talk about the price, the grams per pan, the shade comparisons between each palette, the similarities and differences between them, the originality, and the formulation. And I'm not going to do it in that way for this video just because this is a limited edition item, and it doesn't make sense for me to make a video saying, oh, is it worth it to buy this palette or this palette, because this is no longer available. You can technically go buy it because it's on eBay, but it's $100, and after what I'm gonna tell you in this video about this palette, it's not fucking worth it. So we're just gonna get into it, and I'm not gonna waste your time. So in each of the palettes, they both have a caramel kind of mid-tone brown color that's used for a transition. The two shades that we're going to be talking about is this one right here. This is Deep Skin, and then this one, which is a shadow that was pulled from the Morphe 35O. And then from the Zodiac palette, we're going to be talking about this shade right here called the Taurus. Now, as you can see from my swatches, they all are a little bit different. I would say that Deep Skin has more of a peachy undertone, where the shadow that's pulled from the Morphe 35O is a little bit more yellow, and Taurus looks a little bit neutral, but you can tell there's a little bit of a red undertone there. It pulls a little bit more red than you would really expect. On the eyes though, I truly believe that they look the same. The next color we're going to be talking about is actually a gold, and both of these palettes have those colors, obviously. The one from the Morphe palette is right here, and this is a custom shade that Kathleen created. I believe it was called Gold. It is so beautiful. And then the other one is the Leo from the Zodiac palette. Now, if you notice, gold actually has a little bit more of a coppery bronze undertone, where the Leo pulls a little bit orange, but it's kind of a duochrome in a way. It's kind of like an orange to yellow shift, and it is actually a little bit more intense than the one from the Morphe palette. Now we're going to be talking about a color. I don't really think it's a dupe color-wise. I don't think they're the same color-wise, but I think they kind of look the same, but the undertones are just different, and that's this color right here from the Morphe palette. I believe it's called Satin Cranberry, or it's just a cranberry color that is a satin. And then we also have the Scorpio from the Zodiac palette. You can agree to disagree, but I personally think that these two kind of look the same. The one from the Morphe palette pulls a little brown, but the Scorpio is more purple. But I want to compare these because in my eyes, they kind of look the same. Now, there is a cool tone brown in each of these palettes. The first one obviously being in the Morphe one, and it's actually called Trouble, and it's a Morphe single shadow. I believe you can still purchase it. And then from the Zodiac palette, we have the Virgo right here. Now, these colors I saw when I was doing my research and everything, they looked very similar. I just found the one from the Morphe palette looks a little bit more ashy. I would definitely say it pulls very cool tone, extremely cool tone, to the point it looks extremely ashy. And the Virgo has more of an intense, deep shade. I also think it pulls a little bit more brown. It's very intense, and I would have to say for a shade that's cool, it kind of pulls a little bit more neutral cool, if that makes any sense, but they do look very similar. Now I'm going to be talking about all the purple colors, and you can probably tell which ones. The two purples in this palette, one is called Cranberry Matte and Deep Maroon Red. I'm not sure if those are the names, but that's how they were described everywhere I did my research, and those are these two colors right here. And then we are going to be talking about Scorpio and Sagittarius. So this one and this one. These colors look the exact same to me. Obviously they have different finishes, but when you put them side by side, there is only a difference in undertone and depth of color. I personally was not a fan of these two purple shadows here in this palette. I thought they were extremely patchy, they didn't really blend well, and just they weren't good. But on the other hand, the ones from the Zodiac palette, Scorpio and Sagittarius, these are absolutely beautiful. I feel like these are the exact same shade, except they were upgraded. And I know this is not the case, but it's like Kathleen liked those two colors and just kind of brought them over to this palette and made them better. I know that's not the case, but that's how it feels between these two colors. Now for the black in each palette, this one is Coal from Morphe. Obviously, it's one of their single shadows. And then from the Zodiac, we have Capricorn. Now, as you can probably tell, Capricorn has glitter, right? Coal from the Morphe palette is very patchy and dusty, and it just does not look the same in the pan. It does not look black. It kind of looks more like a gray, which is very disappointing to me. But Capricorn from the Zodiac palette has a little bit of glitter, but you don't really see it when you apply it to the eyes, and the formula is significantly better. I'm gonna say this about pretty much every single shade in the Zodiac palette, but the formulation is 10 times better than what's in the Morphe palette. I don't hate Morphe. I just think ColourPop does better single shadows. Now the color that we have all been waiting for. And I'm talking about this intense metallic glitter infused green shade here at the bottom, and the Pisces from the Zodiac palette. I looked at these in the pan when I was first watching that video of Kathleen talking about the Morphe palette. This color came to mind right away, and I feel like that's what sparked me to really do this video comparing these two palettes. I just find it so strange how she can include all the same tones in each palette, right down to the pop of color that everyone's eyes just go right to, if that makes any sense. Because when you see this palette, your eye automatically goes there. You just can't deny it. And when I open this palette, your eye just goes right here because it's the brightest color. And I find it so strange that the colors that she chose to incorporate looked the exact same. Obviously there is like technically a color difference that I'm going to talk about. This one didn't technically have a name, but from what I've seen online it's just called green. But I found it was, again, it was like the name suggests, green, but it had more of a yellow shift to it, where Pisces in the Zodiac palette is more of a blue with a very heavy green undertone. I would have to say it's more of like a sea foam color, and that's what I would consider both of them to be. These look very similar. I would have to say that they're in the same color family, and that's what I'm saying. I just feel a little bit cheated. I'm gonna get down to it. Like, I'm trying not to be beating around the bush or anything, but honestly it kind of pisses me off. If this sounds stupid, it probably does, but it pisses me off because Kathleen came out with the Morphe palette, I don't know how many years ago, probably like 2, now coming on 3. It might even be just 2, I don't know. She came out with this palette, and at the time it was a beautiful palette, and it still is. I'm not gonna lie, I think that this palette is beautiful. It's just formulated like shit. It's horrible. But then she recently came out with this palette. I do not expect her to remember every single release that comes out, but at the same time you'd have to be so fucking obnoxious to forget about a palette you made with a company and then create a palette with a bunch of similar eyeshadow colors and just tweak them a little bit. Part of me wants to think that maybe she had a problem with Morphe and she just wasn't happy with it at all, and she's trying to like relive the fantasy by creating a palette that's almost the exact same but just tweaking the colors a little bit so it doesn't technically look identical to the other one. I know that's just a theory and it could be completely wrong. I'm almost positive that it's wrong, but part of me wants to think that because honestly, who comes out with a palette that looks similar to one they've created in the past? I am just curious. I want to know. But part of me also just doesn't want to care. But if you're anything like me, you like certain types of things. I love blue, silver, pink and purple eyeshadow. So if I came up with an eyeshadow palette, it would probably include those colors. Say if I made that eyeshadow palette and it sells, it does okay, and then 2 years later, I don't know, another company asked me if I want to make an eyeshadow palette, right? And they're like, you can do whatever you want, be as creative as you want. And then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, I'm gonna include blue, silver, purple, and pink eyeshadows. Like, I'm not hating on Kathleen, I just don't understand how you can make the exact same palette twice. Like, I'm just a little confused. If you couldn't get your hands on this, honestly, it doesn't matter at this point because you got this, which is pretty much the same. And honestly, the formulation of this is crap, like I said. So the fact that you have a better formulation, kind of like an updated version, is nice. Sorry if this video comes off negative. I'm not trying to. I don't think Kathleen is watching this, and I don't expect her to watch this video. But I don't mean to hate or anything. I'm just pointing out something that I noticed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't seen any of my other comparison videos, the playlist will be up here, like I said earlier. If you don't mind, I would appreciate it if you subscribed before you left, because it really helps me out. And if you want to see more videos like this where I compare palettes to each other, this is the place to find it. If you like this video, please make sure to like it, and I'll see you in my next video.